It takes everything these two have and more to not implode from the agony, but Saiyan will is near impossible to break, and the drive these two have mirrors that of Goku and Vegeta as they continue to fight. Then they both hit the ground as the orbs then pass through their bodies and appear above them. After seeing their condition, Whis worries that maybe he overestimated them, even though it was only a softly charged energy orb of his that they tried to handle. Goten's only question for Whis, however, would be, does assimilate just mean to keep it inside their bodies? When Whis replies yes, something clicks within Goten, who seems to have an idea now. That goal to surpass their fathers, continuing to ignite a fire within these boys that won't let them give up, even if it kills them. During this time, across the multiverse in Universe 6, the training would intensify even more as we see Vegeta meditating as his strongest warriors train together. The Saiyans face the fields of action and limits of their potential now, and we would go on to see Broly in his Super Saiyan form working hard to control that rage, and with Kale's help, it seems he's making great progress as she tells him that he's almost got it now. Kaba and Caulifla would also make waves in the progression of their own training, as we see a Super Saiyan 2 Kaba standing across from quite a powered up Caulifla. Suddenly, they're exposed. King Sadala would appear above them after having already warned Vegeta about these damn transformations as they coldly lock eyes. "Keep going, I'll be back," he says, instantly noticing the king's arrival and taking to the skies immediately. Vegeta would confront the king head on with no fear whatsoever. "I see you've come more and more often to see the Saiyans exercise," Vegeta states. "The next step would be to participate, you know." "You and your friends will leave this planet at dawn," the king says coldly, wanting no conversation after this disobedience. Vegeta is in disbelief, but the king's patience has run out as he six his guards on Vegeta next. Vegeta easily disarms the guards and tosses them both away behind them. He then momentarily begins to lose his cool, possibly forgetting the scope of this whole situation, and takes a swing at King Sadala. He stops his hand, however, and attempts to explain, telling King Sadala to just listen for a second. The king doesn't let him get another word out though, and decks Vegeta with a ferocious punch that honestly took him off guard, surprised at how strong the king is. "You who used to teach my people to defend themselves so well. It's pitiful," the king says crudely. "You are nothing. You and the other traitors to my people." King Sadala then continues attacking Vegeta as Broly and the others look on confused, not really sure what to do in this situation. King Sadala sends Vegeta soaring through a mountain and with impressive speed chases after him for a combo as Vegeta mocks him. "So here's the true face of the pacifist king," he says, knowing that a true Saiyan would communicate with him best by a show of aggression and force at the end of the day. King Sadala would keep pressuring Vegeta, each attack seeming stronger than the last, as Vegeta is honestly taken aback by the king's strength. King Sadala would prepare an attack that almost looks like a Gallic gun considering his pose, and Vegeta would return a blast of his own as well. A massive explosion goes off in the sky as Kaba and the others look on that could possibly harm them, so Kaba creates a barrier to shield everyone on the ground. It seems like both Vegeta and the king took a decent amount of damage from that explosion, but there would be no clear winner as they both still remain on their feet. Vegeta charges back in and goes on the offensive this time, but the king's combat experience seems to be relative to Vegeta's as he easily blocks his kicks. "Why didn't you ever show up at the 2 tournaments against us?" Vegeta asks. "You should have protected your own." Vegeta is finally able to land a kick on the king right to the chin, but even a full power kick from Vegeta seems to not faze the king as he simply just spits the blood out of his mouth. This is when King Sadala and Vegeta enter full-fledged battle as the two clash back and forth ruthlessly. Vegeta would assume he is predicting the king's movements as King Sadala creates a ki blast in his left hand, but then fakes and tries to hit Vegeta with a knee, demonstrating his experience even more. Vegeta attempts to block his knee, but is suddenly hit with a right hook as the king's feint takes him off guard. Skill-wise, King Sadala seems to be able to hang with the best of them, but this kinda just pisses Vegeta off, and for a moment, his anger takes over and he returns a critical knee to the king that creases him. This enrages King Sadala, who grabs Vegeta and then angrily tosses him back into the ground. Never such an affront has been made to me by a Saiyan, King Sadala says. You will leave this planet if by force. He launches himself at full speed, blazing towards Vegeta on the ground, but the Saiyan just stands there ready for anything and unfazed by this battle. The fight's becoming interesting, but you always seem to restrict your abilities, Vegeta says. He goes on to meet the king in the skies, and the two collide with a vicious headbutt that sends ripples throughout the lands around them. This panel is probably my favorite in the entire chapter. I definitely got like old school Dragon Ball and DBZ vibes from this, so well done to the team. You guys are amazing at what you do. Two noggins this hard colliding is definitely gonna do some damage, but after taking a few similar headbutts from Goku, King Sadala cannot phase Vegeta like that, so they both recover and get back to it. What Vegeta does next as King Sadala shoots a flurry of ki blasts at him, I'm not even sure how to put into words, as he seems to envision the exact pathways he can take to maneuver every single one of his attacks, and does so with ease after closing his eyes. When he opens them, Vegeta's eyes and aura show a glint of something unbelievable. I can't believe you guys did this. Ultra Instinct Vegeta is displayed as Vegeta's newest technique that he seems to be pretty good at as well. Only momentarily, however, as after Vegeta is within range again, he switches from Ultra Instinct to Super Saiyan to attack the king. The sight of the Super Saiyan, however, throws the king into a raging spiral as his mind nearly collapses from the stress of just seeing this form. Vegeta stops his punch midway as the king seems to be fighting a battle internally at the moment as he looks at him confused. I think it might be time for you to explain yourself, Vegeta says, standing over the king and returning to his base form. What makes you hate this form so much, even though it's only a tenfold increase in our capacities? The king remains silent as on the ground, the Saiyans spectating the battle seem to be confused as to how Vegeta was able to best their king and what this means for them now. The admirals remind everyone to mind their business and return to their training, however. Finally, the king chooses to speak and gives his explanation on why this form is a thing of nightmares for him. This demonic form with golden hair, he goes on, took over my body for the first time the night Gherkin took the life of our previous king. But that evil took away hundreds of lives of innocent people, along with those of my enemies, he continues, recalling that uncontrollable rage. Women, children, even brothers in arms. That outburst caused by my transformation made my hatred into an endless rampage. This child carrying his sister's body within the flames still haunts me. I see, in this facet of my people, only the manifestation of evil. A conditionally accessible form of such hatred cannot be healthy, he goes on. You'll end up driving everyone crazy. Kappa has achieved this transformation through a pure, true protective devotion to you, Vegeta roars back. Would a demon team up with you to protect you? One can't be sure who one's own people really are once one admits that there is nothing more dangerous than a starving man, the king replies. Who do you think you're dealing with? What makes us who we are can't be reduced to a simple form. We're made of our acts, and all too often those of which we're the least proud of, Vegeta admits. The Super Saiyan is a weapon like any other. The key is to use it wisely. What is this heavy burden that I see in your eyes springing from the bottom of your soul, King Sadala asks him. Vegeta confesses that in the past, he massacred entire populations for pure pleasure. This is kinda like his reckoning. What did I just tell you, King Sadala asks. Unfortunate that this form has made you crazy. However, unbeknownst to the king, during that time in Vegeta's life, the Super Saiyan was only a thing of legend whose existence he himself doubted. For me, all is well. It's now up to you to discharge your burden, Vegeta tells him. King Sadala ponders his words and then admits that Kaba did used to tell him about Vegeta, and he remembers that he told him that he was a man who loved his people. So what ultimately made you change and be aware of your actions? Vegeta chuckles and then looks up into the sky as he tells him that he'd love to tell him that it's only because of his wife and children, he goes on. But the truth is that I owe it to the encounter with a warrior greater than myself. A few years ago, I understood where true happiness and where true justice resided. The Earth, his planet that I had then attacked, became my home and I started my family there. Without him, I wouldn't be the same today, as Vegeta attributes much of who he is today to meeting Goku, and their rivalry turned friendship, whether he'd call it that or not. And it's precisely with each transformation, each time that he surpassed himself, that I admired him more and more in spite of myself. The Super Saiyan opened my eyes, my friend. At first, King Sadala would be taken aback, but then he would crack a smile, beginning to take a genuine liking to Vegeta now. "You fell to your knees and you didn't know how to get up," Vegeta says. "But I understand you. I'd probably have acted even less wisely than you did in your place." He reaches out his hand as the likeness of Goku resonates off of him in this moment. King Sadala then goes on to say one last goodbye to his brothers, those whose lives he had been dwelling on daily, as he's ready to turn over a new leaf and no longer shun the strength of the Saiyans. Vegeta was not only able to help the Saiyans of Universe 6 become more powerful, but he also gained the trust of his people and the king, as things seem to be going pretty smoothly for them from here on out. Even back on Earth, the training seems to be going well, as you could almost forget what all of this is for with how beautiful the day is. Elsewhere in the multiverse though, it seems like things are stirring. Something is afoot, and a reckoning will soon take place that may shred the very fabric of reality, as we would conclude the chapter in Universe 14 seeing a figure. And in Universe 0, the seal continues to weaken day by day, only months left until the fight for all of existence begins. "Venerable heir," a voice repeats. The view is hazy, but the voice finally breaks through, and the eyes of a warrior finally open. This is Amaran, and trust me, we will get all into why this guy is a problem soon enough. "I don't know what happened," Dula says. "I've had a huge memory gap." "Maybe you know something about it?" But Amaran shakes his head no. "When I woke up," Dula continued as Amaran rises to his feet, "a few moments before you, this door was blocked, bewitched, but it was just a primal spell, like it was made so that we could go without slobbering too much. Of course, a brilliant wizard like me would have saved us from any situation." This is when Amaran breaks his silence though. "Salaga, where is he?" So Dula leads him to the entrance of their ship, with Amaran not really sure what to expect. However, when the doors finally open, we can see that we're currently on planet Bread, off in the mysterious realm of Universe 14. Amaran is shocked, but Dula confirms that he was shocked as well a few moments ago. All of a sudden, a troubled presence lands behind them on the ship as Salaga finally appears and seems to have narrowly avoided some danger. "What is this outfit?" Amaran asks him. Salaga then goes on to explain that it was impossible for him to wake Amaran up, so he took the initiative to go out. "When I found myself facing this horde of creatures made of pure energy," he goes on, "I had to adapt to the situation, knowing that their blows sucked the vitality out of me. I had to be patient, and I managed to copy their vitality absorption capacity, so I was able to overcome them. The fight was hard, but not without experience gained, and my mission to protect you has been successful." Impressive as always, Dula declares as he extends his hands out to heal Salaga using his magic. "Venerable heir, if I may say so," Salaga goes on, "the bewitchments are strangely similar to those of Lord Drommel." "What?" Dula says, stunned. "But why'd Lord Drommel want to lock us up? This is absurd." "This is indeed what I've concluded," Amaran says. "Any telepathic contact with him or Ziri seems to be impractical. Let's go directly to his planet." "Dula, summon the ship," Amaran commands. Dula forms a hand seal, and with a gust of mighty power, he summons their massive ship as it rises from the clouds. "Wow, I feel as if I haven't used my power in ages," he says, as it's pretty clear now that these guys are indeed suffering from some form of memory loss or amnesia, if this is truly their home Universe 14. As they enter the ship, Salaga, out of curiosity and suspicion of the current situation, reads the vitality of Amaran, and this is when he notices that his heartbeat is irregular just as he thought, and his blood pressure is unstable. Salaga stutters as he attempts to address the venerable heir, but a look as cold as ice runs in Amaran's eyes. "Whatever may have happened," Salaga tells him, "I know you'll make the right decisions." Amaran coldly replies though that he doesn't pretend to, however, as their ship takes off, course set for planet Drommel. Back on Earth in Universe 7, Piccolo is hard at work trying to make Pan the next great Hybrid Saiyan warrior, and much like with Goku and Gohan before, he isn't showing any mercy no matter who he's training with. Pan actually lands a funny little kick on Piccolo's neck, but he jacks her up by her shirt just to remind her that she still does have quite a ways to go. If only you knew what your father had to go through to even have the privilege of training with me, he says arrogantly. Pan makes a face at Piccolo, much to his dislike of course, so he tosses her into the sky, forcing her to sink or swim, as he tells her to show him that she's actually worthy. Pan intensely stops her momentum in the sky and begins flying directly back at Piccolo at full speed. She begins gaining even more speed and power as she extends a fist out, and if I didn't know any better myself, I think she plans on piercing right through Piccolo, but as her fist comes within centimeters of his face, she stops and powers down. Feeling that she's proved her own point, Pan backs up and looks pretty proud of herself, showing a great big smile. This is when the two Namekians from Universe 6 appear in the midst of their training again. Piccolo seems to be very pleased with today's results, so he summons his cape and says that in terms of pure physical training, we've come a long way. But rest is also important, so let's not rush things and let's use the time we have properly. I don't mean to sound derogatory, Sanaru says, but is it a good idea to relax with what's ahead of us? Piccolo laughs and calls him a rookie, telling him, don't think that they're just gonna sit around and sip on a bowl of fresh water. You still need to forge your mind and sharpen your knowledge. Our knowledge? Pilina asks. What do you mean by that? You've taught me a lot about our race, Piccolo tells them, but the history of our people in our universe is just as exciting. Let me tell you that I didn't tell you the whole truth. I'm not the only Namekian on this planet. So my intuition was correct, Sanaru says. At the highest point of this planet, beyond the skies in a sanctuary inaccessible by the most common means, lives the god of Earth, who is the person I respect the most in this world, Piccolo says. Back in Universe 14, Amaran's ship finally arrives at planet Drummel. Amaran, Dula, and Salaga step out of the portal that was created as they take their first steps in ages on planet Drummel. A wave of emotion comes over the warriors as Amaran, Salaga, and Dula scour around, calling for Lord Drummel and Sir Xeres. Venerable Heir, would you allow me to take a quick tour of the planet, Salaga asks. Amaran takes to the sky and manifests a large, liquidy orb of light before it disperses all over the planet. The very life forces on the planet itself are scanned over as Amaran's technique shows insane range. Even Salaga stops once noticing Amaran's technique and heads back to admire his skill. I didn't know you were capable of such a technique, Salaga says to him, but I imagine given your position, you wish to remain discreet about your abilities. Amaran is shocked though as he declares that there is no life whatsoever on this planet. What? And for how long? Months, Salaga asks? Wow, Dula comments, coming up to them now. That was unbelievable, Venerable Heir. However, it's at this moment that Amaran does detect something though, as he points to his right. Down there, he says, there's a kind of psychic beacon that's been deposited. I'll go alone, he declares. Are you sure, Dula and Salaga plead? But in Amaran's eyes, this is a non-negotiable situation as his presence is almost being summoned to this location. Right, Salaga says. We stand guard just in case. Amaran flies off to the source of this beacon, appearing before a beautiful structure. He extends his arm and with one swiping motion seems to open a portal to somewhere. Amaran sticks his hand through this mirror dimension before walking completely through it. When he appears on the other side, something strange happens as his entrance/exit to the outside realm is closed off. The pillars of the altar have come together to open some kind of magic door, Salaga says from the outside as he and Dula await a signal from Amaran. Do you think he got in, Dula says, but this would quickly be answered by the entire formation disappearing before their eyes. I knew it was a trap, Dula cries. We should have never let him go alone. Come, Salaga, let us hasten to find the Venerable Heir. Salaga confirms though that they still feel his presence, however, but it's as if he's in a different dimension to them. I'll focus on his presence as long as I can still feel him, Salaga declares. At the slightest sign from me, destroy the area without any warning, Dula. Back in the mysterious pocket realm, someone appears to be emerging from the shadows as we see a foot appear. Amaran readies his weapon, preparing for an ambush, and begins to take a swing. A piercing light blinds his vision momentarily, however, and the being that ends up emerging from the shadows is none other than Zao, Supreme Kai of Universe 14. "I've been waiting here for you for more than 6 months, Venerable Heir," Zao tells him. "Follow me." They travel down a corridor as Zao explains to Amaran the meaning of all this confusion. "You must be lost. Allow me to apologize. Everything went as we thought it would for the moment." "We?" Amaran asks, to which Zao vows to show him something ahead. As they arrive in a chamber, Zao tells him that he is the only one that can come to this place. "Where are we?" he asks. Zao declares that they're in the hall of the Altar of the Angels, where the scepter of the Angel of the Universe concerned remains when the angel in question isn't using it. Upon the altar lines a staff brimming with divinity as Zao beckons Amaran to take it. He grabs the staff and immediately is met with immense power and a hologram. On the wall in front of them, the staff emits a projection of none other than Lord Drommel, who has recorded a message and sealed it within the staff for safekeeping until Amaran could come retrieve it. "Hello, Amaran. This is Drommel. As you may have guessed, we are no longer here and you have apparent amnesia. Let me refresh your memory," the message goes on. "Our universe has been completely annihilated by the Omni King, while you were only proving day after day your ability to become who you claim to want to be. Then, our universe was restored by a wish-fulfilling dragon from another universe. Afterwards, I was approached by a woman who seemed to be the mother of the angels as well as the companion to the Grand Priest. This hierarchy and childish madness of these so-called rulers of all things having to cease, we took the decision to act and to go first to the Grand Priest himself. And here we are at the moment before your amnesia when you were on planet Bread, looking for your cherished relics. I give you back your memory," Drommel declares as the moments before certain erasure flood back into Amaran's head. His amnesia gone in an instant, a flood of information, emotion, and confusion overcome him as he tries to process everything he's just learned in mere seconds. But a new purpose seems to have spawned within Amaran as he understands the turn of events now. "Now that you remember," Drommel goes on, "if you hear this message, it's because we were somehow stopped by the Grand Priest and Zeri sent his scepter back to where you are before we got stuck." Amaran has been bestowed a mission now, however, as Drommel tells him that after these events, he'll no longer be able to hold his job. "For the time being at least, I will ask you one thing. Finish what you had to do. You'll have the time and the status to do it because from now on, and by this delegation, you have officially become the new god of destruction of Universe 14, Drommel finishes, as Amaran becomes the first god of destruction I've personally ever seen wield the angel staff, and I cannot wait to see how strong this guy is with and without the angel staff. As chapter 11 of Dragon Ball Kakumei begins, Amaran and the others are seen traversing the multiverse in one of the cubes we've become accustomed seeing Beerus and Whis travel by. "Venerable Heir, what is our travel plan?" Salaga asks. Amaran responds that he's decided they'll just go visit the Grand Priest directly at his palace. "His palace?" Salaga replies. "You know where that is?" "This is information that only the angels should know," Dula says. Fortunately, Amaran does have knowledge to get there as he tells them that each element of this multiverse has a precise place and function. Nothing has ever been left to chance. Dula, however, is having trouble understanding, so Amaran goes on to explain to them how they'll be able to traverse the God Realm here. "We can't move from one universe to another in any order we want," he says. "For each itinerary, there are steps to be respected. A few years ago, there were only 12 universes. The gods have evoked during the last millennia the term twin universes, but it's only a correction following our disappearance. At the time when our 18 universes coexisted, we were formed in groups of 3 so-called triplet universes. Our Universe 14, for example, shared the same galaxies, the same planets, and the same species as Universes 5 and 8. This one is thus again connected to the universes of the gods of destruction Arak and Liquor. So the place where I was born," Dula replies, "exists identically in 2 other universes?" "You and Salaga are the exception to the rule," Amaran says. "You have appeared in the demon realm. there's a different one in each universe. This is when we go on to see the graphic of how the universes would be intertwined in this triplet format. Universes 1, 12, and 18 would be one set, universes 2, 11, and 17 another, and universe 3 would be paired alongside universes 10 and 6. Additionally, universes 4, 9, and 15, universes 5, 8, and 14 of course as previously mentioned, and finally, universes 6 and 7 are paired along with universe 13. The universes are all organized in circuits in which each series of 3 follows one another. There is no way to get from one universe to the other unless they're connected within the circuit. Zeres told me at the end of his message that the Grand Priest's Palace is an isolated place, accessible only by passing through special portals in a defined order. This one changes every 100 years or so, and Zeres shared with me the current configuration one must follow to get to the palace. The first portal to pass through is in Universe 4. The journey will be rather long even on board the cube. To get there, we must cross 5 universes in total. Though once arrived, the portals will be significant shortcuts. Getting back to our adventure, however, he continues, we are currently between universes 8 and 6. So, Sadala mentions, let's optimize our trip by taking advantage of the stops to warn about the presence of the new god of destruction of Universe 14. Let's show them that our universe is not that easy to take over. Later on, as their travels continued, Amaran and the rest would arrive upon planet Rosemary in Universe 4. As they descend upon the planet, Dula commands the attention of the inhabitants and orders them to kneel before the divinity that has blessed their planet today. This is the one and only true heir of the divine throne, Sir Amaran. The inhabitants of the planet look kinda confused, but Dula is indeed losing patience with those who choose not to kneel. He overwhelms them with his power and forces them to kneel before Amaran and show him the respect he deserves. They're probably a species without any form of spoken language, Sadala says, but Amaran knows better. What are your demands? One of the civilians replies. What would you claim from an insignificant people like us? We are from Universe 14, Dula says as he approaches them, and in front of you is its new leader. 2 years ago at the Tournament of Power, they explained to us that there were only 12 universes, the guy says, not believing there to be a 14th. And you're saying now that you're from the 14th? This has something to do with the Grand Priest's call from months ago. Otherwise, whoever you are, they continue as the other warriors begin to step up as well. You are not welcome here in Rosemary. Wait, so they're already aware of what's coming, Dula says surprised? Aw, and here I was aching to toy with them. It looks so fun to play with those little chicken legs of theirs. You haven't done anything that would be of an offense to us yet, Sadala says. We feel generous today. Allow us to forgive you by kneeling before us right now. Well, sadly for you, I'm actually the most stubborn being in this universe, one of them replies, as the warriors from planet Rosemary rise before them. So it seems like there's no way of reasoning with you, Amaran says, beginning to lose his patience as well. The bird-like warriors begin to power up, but Sadala quickly informs them that a god of destruction will not be lowering himself to their pitiful level, so he and Dula will be taking care of them. However, the warriors are fearless, and even if they shall perish here, they mention that there is a being that won't be too happy to know that there's a god of destruction walking around quietly in his universe. Over on planet Quitella, the god and angel are seen sparring, but this is when Quitella senses a very interesting key in his universe, mentioning he doesn't know who this being is. Cognac, however, says that this could be the energy of a god of destruction, and given the darkness coming from it, things don't seem too friendly. If I don't recognize the key of a god of destruction, it's perhaps that it comes from a resurrected universe, Quitella says. I myself wasn't even a god of destruction when they were destroyed. If I'm not mistaken, it's as if the 2 years that the good old Grand Priest left us have been listened to. No, Cognac replies. I don't recognize this energy either. It is, nevertheless, lower than yours, but the situation itself remains worrying. What would you like to do, he asks. What do you think, Quitella asks, laughing. We're talking about my universe here, and I forbid anyone to intervene in it, either with or without my authorization. Let's go, he says, getting serious all of a sudden, and the two head out for planet Rosemary. The absolute terror and destruction that's taken place on planet Rosemary in the meantime cannot be understated, as the civilians who refuse to kneel before Amaran have been devastated where they stand, and most lie on the ground lifeless as we return. Sadala and Dula, bored as they may look, have taken much joy in the terror they inflicted here today in the name of their lord Amaran. Amaran himself, however, sits atop a mountain of bodies of those who went against him, as he tells the remaining, "We didn't come here to destroy you today, only to tell you that the end of everything will soon begin. It's not too late for you to make the right choice," he tells them. "Don't be on the wrong team. You couldn't do anything against Sadala and Dula, them just using a piece of their power, so do you really think it's wise to oppose me? Furthermore, I myself am nothing compared to Lord Drommel." "Drommel? Who the hell is that?" the last remaining guy says. "Well, I won't bother explaining it to you," Amaran replies. "Think wisely. You hold your people's lives, and who knows, you may have a chance to meet him if you joined us." The lone Universe 4 warrior refuses to give in, however, telling them to go ahead, keep acting so full of themselves. "You have no idea what we're capable of," he begins, but Dula raises a hand, and the breath instantly leaves his body. Dula suffocates the lone warrior, however, this is when Quatela comes within range of Amaran being able to sense him, so they hastily take their leave, knowing that they aren't quite ready for this battle yet. Moments later, Quatela is heard standing above the warrior whom we now know as Ganos, demanding to know what happened here. "I don't have anything left," Ganos says. "Forgive us for being late," Cognac says, "but the damage has already been done here." Quatela and Cognac are still both hot on the trails of this energy, however, as Quatela mentions that they seem to be slightly ahead of them. "Do you think we can get to their destination before them?" he asks. "It won't be easy," Cognac replies, "since they are also in a cube. Seeing the direction they're going though, it seems that they're headed for a specific portal. And to think we were hoping for mortals to help us in the war," Quatela says, disappointed as he looks over the carnage. "Most of you won't ever be on point." "Right," Cognac agrees, "and for those of you who have the strength required, we'll need them to not mentally break after such encounters. Cognac, clean up this planet a bit so that it looks a bit more like something, and the few remaining inhabitants forget everything that just happened here. Let's not cause panic unnecessarily. And we'll be taking these three with us," he goes on, to the shock of Cognac. "It's not like you to act in the interest of mortals, Sir Quatela," he replies, but he obliges his request. Over on the outskirts of Universe 4, Amaran and the others have finally made it to the first portal. "So this is what one of those special portals looks like," Sadala says, "and on the other side is Universe 10. After that, there will only be 2 more portals left to use. One to go to Universe 6, and there, another to get to the palace." They fly through the portal and come out on the other side near planet Argon in Universe 10 before descending. 5 months have now passed since the events that took place between Kansei and the Grand Priest, and all 12 universes are continuing to train and prepare as hard as they can for the coming war, in order to defend the legacy of precious generations in the best way possible and the destiny of future generations to come. Over in Universe 11, the Pride Troopers are back on a mission as Jiren mentions Gohan being on a planet called Grill for quite some time now. And it was only a few hours ago that he gave his first sign of life by asking us to join him. He absolutely wanted you to come specifically, Jiren. It was unconscious to let him go there alone, Jiren says. "I know," Casserole replies, "but we had no choice. All members of the Pride Troopers are mobilized throughout the universe to stop wars or terrorist organizations. Gohan himself offered to go solo." When they do finally arrive on planet Grill, Gohan looks completely different, to the point where even Dispo says that, wow, in just 5 months, he's almost unrecognizable. "Did you seriously think it would have come to this when he first came to meet us?" he asked Jiren. "The only reason I agreed to give him a test was to pay off our debt to Universe 7, Jiren replies. "But today, I'm happy that he's one of my brothers." "Planet Grill is now cleaned up as you asked me to do, General Casserole," Gohan says. "Indeed," he replies. "I didn't think you would stop an army in only 3 days, but you know as well as I do that it wasn't useful to let them all live, right?" he asks. Gohan remained silent. It was a wanted organization for several months now. Its members are each responsible for many deaths and accidents. This kind of guest does not deserve to be spared, Gohan. I understand your point of view, Gohan replies, and I'm sorry I didn't accomplish my mission as you would have liked, but if the Earth has taught me anything, it's that our enemies of today can change and become our greatest allies in time. Be careful to not get too lost in your gummy bear world, my friend, Casserole replies, but thank you nonetheless. As Casserole begins talking on the radio to more troopers, Jiren instead wants to know why Gohan requested for him to come here as well. Gohan tells him that because of Jiren's help in particular, he's gradually reaching his goal. 4 months prior at a party, post-celebrating Gohan's recruitment, we see Gohan asking Velma how he's able to be there with him and when he came to after seeing what had happened to him during the Topo transfer. Casserole tells him that he woke up during Gohan's interrogation mission as Velma scoffs that of course Goku's son would join the Pride Troopers one day. Well, to be frank, Gohan replies, it wasn't in my mind to come all the way here and I would have continued studying if things hadn't reached this point. Since your arrival here, a question has been on my mind, Topo interrupts. Why didn't you stay and train with your people? This dear Vegeta could have brought you perhaps much more than any of us. Well, Gohan goes on after a momentary silence, I in fact started to be interested with your universe during the Tournament of Power and especially in your Kaioshin. This is when Velma, of course, gets very defensive, demanding to know just what his interest is in K. Interestingly enough, however, Gohan goes on to explain to them how the Kais have had an explicit hand in his progress that he's achieved to this day. My potential was awakened by the old Kaioshin of our universe many years ago, he goes on. So somehow I get my power today indirectly from the Kaioshin, and when I came out with Dispo from the fighting surface, I later asked Shin who K really was because I can't really explain it, but it's as if the Kaioshins are somehow connected to me since I was in their world. I feel their energies and their potential. This is when Margarita speaks up, however, telling them that the world of the Kaioshins is a place like no other, and few mortals have ever stepped foot in it. She then pulls out her staff and conjures the moments where Gohan was being trained in the Supreme Kai's realm, confirming his story. You officially wore the Kaioshin outfit and the Pataras, she goes on. Kibito made you a Kaioshin apprentice at that time. This should give you some answers on many points. Exactly what did your Kaioshin tell you about K, Jiren asks. Well, Gohan begins, he explained to me that the Kaioshins first appear as golden fruits, but that out of all of the fruits that existed throughout the universes intended on becoming Kais, K was a fruit 2 or 3 times larger than all of the others. This would also explain why K has such intense ki compared to the other fruits. In any case, K is nothing like the other creator gods that I know. Am I wrong, he asks? He knows what he's talking about, Velma thinks to himself. What could he have in mind? Indeed, he possesses powers that his colleagues will never possess in their lifetimes, Velma answers. Come on, give birth, what are you thinking? For some reason, Gohan continues, when I awaken my potential, I have this weird discomfort in my belly as if something is only partially unlocked. Why would you never talk about it with the Kaioshin of your own universe then, Jiren asks. Well, at the time, when my potential was first awakened, time was against us and I had to act right away, Gohan says. The old Kaioshin did make me much more powerful anyway than I would have ever been on my own. So in summary, Margarita says, you're going to ask K to complete your awakening because you feel that you're not using your full potential and that he would be the best person to help you do so. Is that it? Well, yes, I know it's probably absurd, he begins, but Margarita silences him and beams him with her staff. Indeed, she continues, I feel that it is sleeping in you. The steps seem to have been done, but not in the right order. What do you mean, Gohan asks. When a Kaioshin awakens potential, Margarita says to him, there are several steps that need to be followed in a precise order, and this requires extreme concentration. Not all Kaioshin can awaken potential. In fact, only a handful can. Perhaps he wasn't rigorous enough. Anyway, she continues, it must be the logical consequence of trusting a perverse Kaioshin who moreover has assimilated an unreliable witch. From what I can see in you, your potential is far from being even half awakened, she says, to the shock of us all. Moreover, you seem to have a link with several beings, a Saiyan father, an earthling mother, potential released by a Namekian, and a second time by a god of creation. The conditions are met for your total awakening to be a success. I have no doubt anymore, Gohan replies. I have to reach my true limits to protect everyone, and I really need you all. Many thanks, Gohan says, bowing to them, as Dispo says no need to be so formal. They were skeptical of him at first, but he's a pride trooper now, so there's no question of that between them. Back in the present day, Gohan has completed his mission for the pride troopers on this planet, but there's still one thing left for him to do. Jiren, he calls out, I wanted to ask a service of you. Ever since my childhood, as far back as I can remember, not a single enemy has ever faced and fought my father the way you did in the Tournament of Power. Even during your fight with Frieza in 17, you kept improving and being better in all aspects. There's no doubt, you are extraordinary. Jiren is speechless as he can only look at Gohan and think to himself, in addition to his innate abilities and ease for fight I feel from him, this look and this aura are so different from his father's. Fight me with all your power, Jiren, Gohan asks of him, as he begins to transform and his aura changes. As we wait for K, I'll knock at my limits starting now, he roars, as chapter 12 of Dragon Ball Kakumei comes to an end. Around assessing the reaction to his words, he will remind them that he has to look for his limits. That's all that matters to him in this fight. Protect this planet and its inhabitants, Toppo tells Makurita, as there's no reason to think Jiren would turn down this fight. Right, she replies. Gohan hovers in the sky as Jiren provokes him to make his move, and Gohan charges in for the first attack, but he would miss his punch with Jiren dodging. Gohan then whips out a galactic donut surprisingly, but before he has a chance to release it, Jiren mushes him in the face with such force that the galactic donut is still where he left it above his head. He would ricochet and combo Gohan all over the corners of the battlefield, sending his body all over the place until finally his face would come into perfect position for a thunderous punch once more on his head this time. The sheer might of Jiren's power is enough to crumple Gohan, and that previous blow collapses him as he writhes in pain. Jiren kneels beside him before picking the nearly unconscious Gohan up by the hair. I'm completely stunned, Gohan thinks to himself. I can't move. But before he can even utter the thought, another crushing blow hinders his every sense. And another until Jiren finally plants Gohan firmly in the ground with a dive kick. Gohan's body bounces off the ground as if it was made of rubber. Surprisingly enough though, Gohan is still able to get to his feet as everyone looks on in shock. He still has more fight left in him. Gohan goes to take another punch, this time an uppercut, but Jiren easily maneuvers around it and clocks Gohan in the face once more. Somehow though, Gohan isn't seeming to take as much damage as these blows might make it look. He charges up a Kamehameha next and launches a massive beam at Jiren. This guy Jiren though completely ignores one of Gohan's strongest attacks and delivers an uppercut that almost decapitates the Saiyan. Gohan would slam into the top of the barrier enclosing them, continuing to take unbelievable punishment. With each time he's brought to his knees, however, he keeps getting back up, and this starts to remind Jiren of a young determined boy he once knew. In the past, many years ago, a young Jiren would be put through strenuous tests by his master, being put on his backside over and over again, but refusing to give up. Fighting to get stronger isn't enough, his master says. You have to hold on to everything you have to win your fights. What are you talking about, a young Jiren says. I've nothing left to lose. My only family is you, Master Gishin. Jiren charges in again, determined to continue their training, but Gishin delivers a vicious backhand. You have to fight for your values and those you love, no matter how many there are, Gishin roars at him. Because the day you really don't have anything, the day you don't fight for anyone, is the day the flame that burns inside you is extinguished. You shouldn't wait until your loved ones are about to die or in danger to fight on their behalf, he continues. You must be strong for them when the time comes. This would touch Jiren in a way that, to this day, he still remembers this quote. Why do you keep getting up, son Gohan? Jiren asked him in the present day. Because I can still do it, Gohan roars at him. Jiren would then power up even more, prepared to test Gohan with the full brunt of his power, but Gohan doesn't back down. This is when Gohan will get into a stance I've yet to see from him as he gathers massive amounts of energy. Unfortunately, an attack this slow doesn't pass Jiren's test as he appears right in front of Gohan and sends him spiraling with another blow before appearing above him and crushing him again. Gohan would bounce off the ground violently again, but this next attack would be brutal. Jiren's fear-inducing power would prove to be as mighty as it is intimidating as he simply walks through Gohan, but the amount of damage done in that single second would paralyze him where he stands. Wake up, he says, as he turns back around to Gohan, who's still coughing up blood. This is when Jiren would go on to say to him that the day an opposing god of destruction confronts you with the intention of reducing you and your friends to nothing, are you really sure that your little speech will spare you? Gohan, completely powered down now, struggles to regain any sense of the word balance. When he opens his eyes and looks to his right, he sees the group of terrorists that he failed to deal with properly returning and about to attack the Pride Troopers. We have to help them, Gohan struggles to say, but Jiren tells him no and says to trust in his teammates. You can't do anything in your condition anyway. Lord Topo, Makurita begins. Why don't you do something for your companions? No, Topo says. Look closely. Dispo and Casserole are pretending to be in a difficult spot. Of course, she says. I'll ask you one last time, Gohan, Jiren continues. Why do you keep getting up? At first, Gohan seems to not know how to respond to this, but when he remembers all of his friends, family, loved ones, the answer couldn't be more clear. Jiren begins preparing an absolutely diabolical attack now that even Kasura has to turn his attention to and tell Jiren not to go too far here, but the beaming light stemming from his fist would signal otherwise. I think it's time, he declares. This form of his, full power the end, would look to eliminate Gohan with this one final blow as he stands in the wake of unstoppable power right now. Gohan would learn from this encounter, however, and for the first time this battle, he's able to dodge one of Jiren's most lethal attacks. Gohan would duck under and then attempt to return a blow of his own. With everything he's learned and everything he has left, Gohan would throw his final punch at Jiren, only to have it easily dodged once again. But something was different this time around. Gohan would succumb to a light-speed counterattack by Jiren, who would also dodge the blow, but this time he would at least leave a scratch on his opponent. Gohan would finally collapse as Dispo and Kasuro easily finish up with their engagement as well, and even though he may lie unconscious on the ground defeated, Gohan has made Jiren and the Pride Troopers proud this day. And although the power levels and experience throughout the multiverse vary dramatically, as we saw here today, in Topo's own words, 2 years of preparation for gods who have been training for millions of years is by far too short. As we return to the galactic pillage by God of Destruction Amaran, Salaga, and Dula, as we saw previously, they continue to eliminate aggressive resistance as they make their way through the multiverse to the Grand Priest's palace. Amaran's chain attack, however, proves to be fatal to the old warrior he's battling in Universe 10, as he quickly takes him out with a single flurry of attacks. It seems there is more to this battle, however, as Amaran tells Dula to break this silly illusion they're in. Oh, I see, Dula says as he follows orders and the spell begins to disappear, revealing a ship around them. Behind a pillar, a young woman who seems to be the captain of this ship is hiding, and this dude Amaran just apparently does not care. Hands rated E for everyone, I guess, when it comes to him. Looks like they used magic here too and tried to trap us in a spaceship with an illusion, Salaga explains. Let's get back on the road, Amaran says as they take their leave. They continue their travels through Universe 10 as Sadala mentions that it seems these beings knew they were coming and were already taking the lead. We should expect the same in Universe 6, he finishes, indicating that this seems to be their next stop. Hundreds of millennia have passed since we were wiped out, so don't imagine that Universe 6 is at the same stage as it was then. Do not let your guard down, Amaran commands. This is when they finally arrive at the portal to the next universe, the final stretch before reaching the Grand Priest Palace, as Dula comments. Over on planet Sadala, we can see Kaba and Caulifla sparring together in their Super Saiyan 2 forms, with Vegeta barking at his pupil to wisen up. The battle between these two Universe 6 Saiyans is as intense as we would expect it to be, with Kaba even showing a little bit of finesse here, swinging a ki blast around Caulifla and using it to create an opening to land a devastating blow. Kaba is showing amazing progress in my opinion, and it feels like his determination to live up to Vegeta and the King's expectations drive him to never give up. With his mentor in his corner cheering him on, Kaba would land another crushing kick on Caulifla, splitting the ground beneath them and creating a devastating wheel-like ki attack that heads straight for her. With no time to think or dodge, Caulifla pulls a Goku and just kind of headbutts Kaba's attack, attempting to slow it down some. She charges a massive load of ki in both of her hands and is finally able to get a grip on the attack, but Kaba's surprises don't stop there. His attack causes a massive explosion, knocking her out, as Kaba boasts about finally beating her, as we take a look at the score of 1-18 in the back now. He also comments about creating that last technique we just witnessed, dubbing it his own signature move. Caulifla finally gets back to her feet after being toasted by that attack, honestly, and even she has to give it up to Kaba. That was one hell of an attack, she tells him with a huge smile and thumbs up. Come on, you've all made excellent progress in your individual training. Now, it's time to take it to the next level, Vegeta tells them. Next level? What do you mean by that? Kaba asks. But at this very moment, something strikes Vegeta to his core and puts him on the highest of alerts. He immediately looks up to the sky towards the monstrous ki coming their way, with Amaran, Salaga, and Dula taking notice of his ki as well. Vegeta immediately moves into action and heads to confront the threat, deeming this ki equivalent to that of a god of destruction. All of a sudden, he stops in his tracks as there is a guarantee that they felt his ki by now as well, so he turns around and warns Kaba. On board Amaran's cube, Salaga confirms that Amaran's estimation of Universe 6 being home to abnormally strong warriors seems to be true, as a number of massive energies are down on the planet in front of them. Let's go to the other side, Amaran says, as they slightly change course. Kaba, Vegeta screams. Go immediately and warn King Sadala to shelter all civilians, then bring him back here ASAP. Kaba begins to ask questions, but Vegeta commands him to not argue and do what he says immediately. Kaba takes off, and then Vegeta turns to Broly, warning him to prepare for whatever is headed their way. The same goes for you, he says to Kel and Caulifla. Follow me. Kaba enters the palace at full speed, bolting towards the king's quarters, and urges the guards that he needs to speak to King Sadala immediately. Come on, what's going on, Captain Kaba? King Sadala says as he slowly steps out of his room. I have no idea what's going on, Kaba begins, but Mr. Vegeta sent me to tell you that you must order the special forces to announce an immediate curfew and that you must join the training camp as soon as possible. Please, he finishes with a bow. King Sadala puts a comforting hand on Kaba's shoulder, calming him down and thanking him for his service and loyalty. Well, you heard that, the king says to the guards as they hop into action as well. Let's go. Outside and all over planet Sadala, the special forces are sent out, and on simultaneous command, we see them using their ki to project what looks to be a barrier around planet Sadala to try to keep this unwanted visitor out. This war started much earlier than expected, didn't it? King Sadala says as he, Kaba, and the guards arrive at the training camp. Well, I've clearly no idea if this is the war that's starting or not, Vegeta replies, but in any case, these guys didn't come to greet us politely. Go and join the others and motivate them by helping them, he says to the king. I trust you. It's at this moment, however, that their unwanted visitors are within sight of them and vice versa. Oh, Dula comments. Seems like they're waiting for us once again. What an honor. A magic barrier, Sadala questions after he sees the force field, and Dula says he'll take care of it. Amaran, however, tells them that he won't get anywhere with his magic because it's a key barrier, so he'll take care of it himself. Amaran would exit the cube and unleash a devastating blast upon the planet that single-handedly wears down on the Special Forces shield. King Sadala himself is here with his men, however, and encourages them to not give up and maintain their positions. Maybe I should go join them, Broly asks, but Vegeta tells him to stay near because he's gonna need him. It's best not to take any chances with these guys. These guys are way more interesting than those of previous universes, right Salaga? Dula says as they look on amused at the fight the Saiyans are putting up. Certainly, Salaga replies, but they nevertheless face an apparent limit. Their plan is counterproductive. As they see Vegeta, however, Salaga says that this one knows what kind of opponent he's facing already, and should rather worry about what's coming next. This is when Amaran, as Vegeta expected, will release the energy of destruction upon the Saiyans, declaring a devastating Hakai that would simply erase their attempts at protection. That's exactly what I thought, Vegeta says through gritted teeth, wary of this being a vengeful god of destruction. The Saiyans are still doing their best to keep the barrier up as much as possible, but the entrance made by Amaran is more than large enough for them to enter onto the planet. With a thunderous landing, the god of destruction of Universe 14 arrives on planet Sadala before Vegeta, Broly, and the king. As the smoke clears, Vegeta goes to greet their new guests who've made quite an impression on planet Sadala thus far. This next panel shows us all we need to know, as even the admirals are here to back up Vegeta and Broly against a threat that may very well take everything they all have against the god of destruction. To what do we owe your divine coming? Vegeta asks. Amaran completely ignores him, however, just taking note that he is incredibly strong. You're not from here, he goes on, and you've been trained by an angel. Whis, he says. This shocks Vegeta to his core, as how would this guy know that? Who are you, he asks. Amaran continues, saying that Vegeta has undergone angelic training, but his power doesn't seem like it. Oh, I see, he continues. You can change your power level. He completely ignores you, Broly comments, which of course we can all kind of see that by now. This is just some weird analysis at this point. You're a Saiyan, like the majority of the inhabitants of this planet. Your average power is relatively correct, which is rare. Vegeta is definitely beginning to get agitated though, and threatens the god of destruction. Now, don't say things you might regret, Vegeta, he finishes, and this is when the battle would finally begin, as Amaran draws his chain, wrapping it around one of Vegeta's ankles and swinging it. He snatches Vegeta towards himself and catches him with a crushing gut punch. This sends Vegeta soaring into the sky, with Amaran hot on his trail again. Broly tries to go and help Vegeta, but he's cut off by Salaga and Dula, who don't let him go a step further. As soon as they pose a threat to him, Broly begins to power up immediately, releasing ungodly amounts of ki. Amaran flies at Vegeta in the sky for a follow-up attack, but Vegeta has just enough time to transform into Super Saiyan Blue and is able to grab Amaran's arm and send him back towards the ground. Vegeta launches a barrage of ki blasts down at Amaran, but he easily deflects them all with his sickle, which Vegeta does take note of. He tries to pull up on the god of destruction for a more close-range fight, but Vegeta is almost stopped in his tracks by the almost illusionary speed of Amaran. He's able to block all attacks from all angles, and eventually Vegeta angrily grabs a hold of Amaran's mask. This is the last time I'm gonna ask you, he roars. But it's at this moment that Broly is also releasing a devastating blow as well. But Dula's magic is gonna strike once more, as we see him snap his finger, and then somewhat of a portal will appear at Broly's target. Who the hell are you? Vegeta roars as he prepares to rip off Amaran's mask, but it will be at this moment that Broly's punch would enter the portal and exit, you guessed it, right across Vegeta's face thanks to Dula's trickery. Upon arrival at planet Sadala, we would see Vegeta barking at Cabba as he spars with Caulifla. At first glance, this just looks like it'd be a regular match, but with Vegeta watching, Cabba was sure to show us something. Now, both of these guys, Cabba and Caulifla that is, were in Super Saiyan 2 during this battle, as we can see, but there would be a jump soon. Kaba's quick thinking and combat experience would show that he definitely knows the ropes of battle, as this move he pulls off reminds me of something Goku might have done in his past, as he manipulates a ki blast around the battlefield, all for distraction for the final blow, and he definitely caught Cauliflower off guard with this one. This is when Kaba does something very interesting and kind of unique though, and the entire reason I decided to make Kaba, however, has never battled and doesn't have that experience against an Ultra Instinct Goku, so momentarily surpassing Caulifla at this point is all thanks to his recent progression, it seems, and massively in thanks to Vegeta, of course. I think really, and I mean really soon in the Dragon Ball Kakumei story, we're going to be looking at a new, stronger Kaba, and just the main Universe 6 Saiyans as a whole, including Broly of course, with Vegeta there training them. However, with Amaran making contact on planet Sadala in the most recent chapter, Kaba and the rest are gonna have to not only